conversation on what happens when you die. Because a lot of us don't realize we spend half our life acquiring our assets, we pay our income tax, we pay our GCT, and what you don't realize is the most expensive tax is being levied when we die. So what I'm here to do this afternoon is to share a wealth of knowledge with you. You have a handout, even I'm going to depress you. You have the handout to take with you to kind of be a refresher for you. But it's really to tell you what really happens when you die. Now, all of you will probably say, why do I need to plan my estate at all? There are two main reasons, if at least here this afternoon, we are not in. We want to try and minimize the taxes we have to pay on debt. Notice I did not say avoid it. What we want to do is to minimize it. Secondly, we want to avoid any complications that you may have created in your estate from being on your part. So let me start with the first objective. What are all these taxes you hear me talk about? Now, when we all die, we have to pay basically 4 death taxes. There's transfer tax, there's stamp duty, there's the insurance fees, and we have to pay what is called a personal representative's commission, which if you took the time to do your will, you would have had an executor. If you didn't prepare your will and you die intestate, then you would have had an administrator, and they're allowed to charge a commission. So these are the 4 main death taxes. What I'm going to do now is take you through the 4 of them, so that it becomes more alive to you as you understand what they are. Let's go back to the first one, transfer tax. Once we die, we have to transfer our assets from ourselves to our loved ones. So what we did on the Transfer Tax Act was identify what we call transfer taxable assets. Unfortunately for all of us, they chose our most expensive assets. The very first one is real estate. So any real estate that you own not only in Jamaica, but overseas once you're a Jamaican by birth, you're going to pay transfer tax on it. Any shares or stocks that you have in any company, whether it was your own private company that you formed, or whether you invested on the stock exchange, you're going to pay transfer tax on it. And finally, any debentures, although this is not an asset we tend to be investing in, debentures will also attract a transfer tax. So there are 3 main transfer taxable assets: real estate, stocks and shares, and debentures. Then they have to work out what is the percentage of the tax that is going to be levied. And we have a formula called net market value. So we take the value of those 3 assets when we die, we deduct liabilities, and what is left is your net market value. Now, for everybody who died before June 1st, 2005, this tax is 15%. Anybody who died after June 1st, 2005, and before June 1st, 2008, the tax was reduced by Minister Davis to 7.5%. If you die after June 1st of this year, then the tax has been further reduced to 6%. So whether it is the 15 or the 7.5 or the 6, depending on where you die, it's going to be on your real estate, stock shares, and debentures. What was their value when you died? You deduct your liabilities and then you apply the tax to it. Now you may be saying, well, what liabilities can we deduct? There are very few. Having died, they allow us to deduct funeral expenses. However, the funeral expenses is only what you can prove. So a lot of the states, they come to me and say, well, funeral expenses are 800,000. If all they have is receipts for 100,000, that's all I can deduct. Secondly, reasonable medical expenses. Do you wonder why the word reasonable? Having tested the system, they really only allow you 1 month before you die. So if you're ailing from cancer and you have treatment for 1 year, all we're allowed to deduct is literally 1 month of medical expenses before you die. Finally, because the tax is being levied on real estate, they will allow us to deduct mortgages. But the problem with the mortgage, if you took the mortgage with a life insurance company or a building society, what would they have insisted? You have insurance in place. So even though you have died with a debt, guess what? The debt is being liquidated after your death. So we cannot turn around again and deduct it as a liability. So realistically, I'm really only looking at funeral expenses, 1 month of medical expenses. You take that from the value of your land shares and debentures and you apply the tax. I'm not finished with you. 1 year after you have died, that figure, whatever it is, attracts interest. And the interest that's being levied is 6% and it is compounded. So if you take 10 years into the estate, it is 9 years of interest at the rate of 6%. But there is a hat. In relation to this transfer tax, you are allowed an exemption on one of your properties. And that one that you're allowed is really on what is known as your matrimonial home or principal place of residence. Now, I'm going to take you through quickly some history that has followed this particular development. You are only allowed to apply for that exemption if you are married and you are a husband and wife, and guess what? You own the property as joint tenants. So what that really meant is when the husband or the wife died, the property would pass to a surviving spouse, but it had to be principal place of residence, and if it was, and the government was satisfied that it was, then you can get this exemption of either the 15, the 7.5, or the 6. But it's smarter. What happens if you weren't married? What happens if you have other family members living with you? So we love it for amendments, and what they said is okay, it doesn't really matter who owns the property, meaning could it have been the husband's name alone, could it have been the wife's, could it have been the husband and wife, but not as a joint tenant, it could have been